So, after 12 whole years of Calypso not letting this man go, and him apparently sitting by the beach, crying, looking out at the sea, wondering how his beautiful wife Penelope is doing, missing Circe. It reminds me of, you know, in Alexander Hamilton, where he's like longing for Angelica, missing my wife, longing for Angelica. I was like, this man has no chill. That's how I feel like he was. I feel like he was looking out there, missing Penelope, longing for Circe. Okay, it's really not funny. It's really not funny. Eventually Athena has been watching him, and Athena is like, okay, this is not okay. My hero has been kept there for 7 years. The gods don't like to meddle in God's business. They do, actually, they do, especially for those that they deem lesser gods. Calypso is more so a nymph than an actual goddess, so she's a lesser goddess. Like with Circe's mom is a nymph, but her dad is a titan. So Circe is very, very powerful, and she's technically a goddess. But Calypso is somewhere not really a goddess, but she's like a mini goddess, like a nymph. So Athena is like, I'm not doing this anymore. I also don't know why Athena didn't just go down into Calypso's island and just grab her boy. Why didn't she? I actually need to do more research on why Athena did not go to Calypso's island, because we know that Athena does go to other people's islands. Like she did go to Circe's island. By the way, we know for a fact that we know if you watch the Circe video, we know that when Odysseus left, Circe was actually pregnant. He didn't know that, but Circe was in fact pregnant. And we know that Circe has her son, and we know that Athena tries to kill Circe's son, and so she goes to Circe's island a couple of times, but Circe fights her off. But so I'm wondering, why didn't Athena go to Calypso's island? She kept your mans for 7 years. Why didn't you do something about it? So anyway, it's been 7 years. Athena goes to Zeus and says, listen, it's not okay, this is not fair. This is not fair. I need my boy back. And Zeus is like, okay, good, okay, fine. Zeus sends Hermes and tells Hermes to tell Calypso to let Odysseus go. So Hermes is like, okay, it's my job anyway. Hermes is not only messenger of gods, but he's also a gossip. So I'm pretty sure he was happy to go there. So he goes and says, hey, Calypso, let this boy go. And Calypso said no. And they're like, hey, the gods said let this boy go. And Calypso is like, she thinks it's so unfair, because she knows that why are the gods meddling in her business? Is it because she's a lesser god? And she's like, whatever it is, I'm not gonna do it. And then they're like, hey, the order came from Zeus. And she's like, okay, sorry, the king has spoken. So Calypso lets him go. She helps him, like she tells him, oh, here's a tree, build yourself a boat to sail away. And he does that, which is, again, you can see the relationship that he has with Calypso. I've heard people debate that he had a more like, he and Calypso loved each other and Calypso loved him. But the fact that Calypso is like, build yourself a boat, go, use this tree is strong, and go. I guess she still put effort in showing him a strong tree. But Circe built him a boat. Circe gave him guidance on how to avoid all those dangers in order to arrive safe. Circe sent him to the underworld to meet with all the instructions so that he can meet somebody who can help him. So you can see Circe's relationship was clearly more, I think, significant than whatever he and potentially his abuser. Because it does say that he seduces Circe and they come to this agreement and they spend 1 year together. But with Calypso, she says, you are mine, you're not going. So we can see that between Calypso and Circe. So anyway, Hermes says, hey, Zeus says do it. And Calypso's like, fine, shows him a strong tree and says, okay, you can go. So he takes that tree, builds himself a raft, and he sails away. But Poseidon is still not done with him. Poseidon says, it's for life, my boy, forever. If we have beef forever. And so Poseidon sends a storm again. He gets shipwrecked. This time he lands up in the sea of, it's called the I think it was the Thessalonian, no, I forgot. Lands into this other island, and in this island he's like been, okay, before that he's like drowning, he's underground, he's drowning, he can't breathe, and then a sea goddess actually comes to his rescue and gives him a scarf and says, use the scarf and it'll help you get to an island, to land. And he does that. When he gets to the island, he removes the scarf and puts it back in the sea so that it goes back to its owner. So you can see that he does sort of, you know, do what he says he's gonna do. And then he falls asleep on the island, and when he wakes up, he hears the voices of maidens, women, girls, and then he realizes, oh, he's naked. So he takes like a tree thing and covers his nakedness and says, hey, can you guys take me to somebody who can help me? And they're like, okay. One of them is a princess, and she is looking at him like, a man. I wonder how attractive Odysseus is, because why was Circe so easily seduced by him, and why did Calypso say, you are not going anywhere? And now this princess is like, ooh, a man, maybe you can marry me. So he must have been very attractive, huh? He must have been, I mean. But how attractive was he really? Really? So anyway, so she then takes him to her father, the king, and he tells us, and then while they are feasting, he's not telling anybody who he is yet, because he really doesn't know who he can trust. But while they are feasting, a musician comes, and the musician sings the song of the great Trojan War and the story of all the heroes. And as he's hearing this person sing, he starts to cry, and the king is like, hey dude, why are you crying? Who are you? And he tells the king who he is. He's Odysseus, son of whatever, the king of Ithaca. And they're like, oh dude, so sorry, we're gonna help you get home. And they actually help him get home. And but as they're helping him get home, Poseidon is sending all kind of things. But at this point, Zeus is like, I'm tired of Athena complaining about this, I'm gonna just let him go. So he eventually gets like to home, to Ithaca, but he's not sure that he's in Ithaca. He gets there, and there's like this boy, this young guy, this young boy, and he's like, where am I? And the boy is like, hey, you're in Ithaca. And the boy's like, who are you? And he's like, okay, I can't tell people who I am. So he makes up like this elaborate like lie about, oh, he's a beggar. He tells his backstory, and we can know that this guy is a brain. And then the boy laughs and turns into the goddess Athena and says, hey, that story was so elaborate that if I wasn't a goddess and your goddess of all people, I would have believed it. And Athena says, okay, but before you go to the palace, let's go to your friend, the one that helped raise your son while you were away, and takes him to his son, Telemachus. Yes, Telemachus. And before to his son Telemachus, so he takes him to his friend. And when he gets to his friend is like, first they hide him as a beggar. She uses her magic to hide him as a beggar so that he cannot recognize. As he's eating with the friend, he hears footsteps, and the dog is like relaxed and like, who's that the dog is not even worried about. And then it is his son, and he sees his son, and he's like, oh my god, you're my son. And they embrace, and it's all beautiful. And then after that, they go to the palace, and they get to the palace. There's like all these 100 men. He acts like a beggar. He fights off a beggar to impress the men that are trying to marry his wife, and he kills that beggar, showing those guys his strength. Then they do like this competition thing where they say that whoever can bend this bow will marry Penelope. And he's like, can I do it? And they're like, no, you can't, you're a beggar. And he's like, hey, I'm a guy too. And then they're like, okay, fine, you can do it. And he bends it, he does all of that, he shows how impressive he is. And then him and his son Telemachus, they kill every single one of the 108 men. And after that, him and his wife, they see each other, and Penelope is kind of like not sure, and she's like, hey, Penelope's like, okay, I'm going to trick him a little bit, and she says, hey, I'm going to have someone move this bed for you so that you can sleep. And he's like, hey, silly, this bed can't be moved. It was made out of this huge oak tree. It's literally built into the ground. And she's like, oh, you are my husband. And they embrace and they spend the night together, and we think that's a happy ending, right? Well, different retellings say that he did not live a happy life because of everything that he has seen. He had lost all those men, and I don't think he would have lived a very peaceful life myself either. But they also say because he essentially killed 108 men with families, and we know in Greek mythology, like many other mythology, when somebody kills a man, his father, his sons, or his brothers, or his family will always come to avenge him. So obviously he would have been paranoid that somebody was going to avenge him. There's also another retelling where they say that he was given a prophecy that his death will come from the sea. And we do know from the story of Circe that eventually Circe's son Telemachus decides that he wants to see his dad, and he travels from Circe's island to Ithaca, and there's like this huge misunderstanding, and he mistakenly pricks his dad with this huge arrow that Circe made for him that has poison, and this poison, whoever it touches will die immediately. And we know that that's how he dies. He dies in the hands of his son who came from the sea. So that is the end of Odysseus' story. We then know that there's like Circe's part, Penelope's part. We know that apparently in some retellings, Penelope marries Telemachus, and Telemachus becomes the king of Ithaca. We know that Telemachus was not able to avenge his dad because if avenging his dad meant killing his little brother, and he didn't want to do that, so he left with Circe and married Circe. Like, it's like a four-way marriage. It's so much incest. I can't. But that's it. That is the end of Odyssey. I love the story. I don't think I enjoyed this version of it. I didn't have fun with it as I had fun with it, but I think it's like reading a history novel, a history book, which I love reading history books, but again, it's like, oh, come on. It's a bit everywhere for me, so I didn't really enjoy this retelling. But if you want to pick up the Odyssey, please do. This one is fun because you get a little bit of what's happening with all the other gods, but I also really enjoyed Homer's version. But that's it for me. I love you guys. Thank you so much. You will see me